Okay, think about it. It's an action so simple. We probably do it every day without a second thought. You settle in, you grab the remote, and you press play. But what if I told you that behind that one little click is this absolutely massive global technological marvel? So, what really happens in those few milliseconds between your thumb hitting the button and the opening scene popping up on your screen? Well, we're about to find out.
I mean, really, how does a movie travel from some server somewhere on the planet all the way to your screen, flawlessly in just milliseconds? And not just for you, but for over 260 million other people who might be pressing play at the exact same time. The answer, and I mean this, is way more fascinating than you'd ever guess.
So, what you're looking at here is basically the roadmap. This maps out the entire journey your little play request takes from your device, zipping through the cloud, hitting a massive network of servers, and then coming all the way back to you. We're going to break down every single step of this, let's call it an intricate dance, and we're starting right at the very foundation of the whole thing. So, to really get how Netflix works today, we actually have to go back to a time when it just completely broke. I mean, totally failed. Because, as it turns out, to build a truly unshakable streaming empire, Netflix first had to learn how to survive a total catastrophic collapse.
Okay, so the year is 2008. A single event happens that changes everything. A massive database corruption brings the entire company to a screeching halt. And remember, back then, they were still mostly shipping out those little red DVD envelopes. For 3 whole days, nothing. It was a huge wake-up call. They realized, hey, just building bigger data centers isn't going to cut it. They needed a completely different, much more resilient way of doing things. And that was the trigger for this enormous 7-year-long project to move everything to the cloud.
And this is really the key takeaway here. Moving to the cloud meant they had to accept a new reality. Things were gonna fail, all the time. Servers would die, networks would get laggy, heck, entire regions could just go dark. So instead of trying to prevent every single little failure, they adopted this totally radical new philosophy. Let's build a system that expects to fail and can just gracefully survive it when it does. And this whole way of thinking led to the birth of an entirely new field, something they called chaos engineering. Now, it sounds completely nuts, I know, but it's actually simple genius. Think about it. What's the best way to make sure you don't get taken down by some unexpected problem? Well, you create those problems yourself, on purpose, but in a controlled way, of course. It's literally like a vaccine for your entire tech infrastructure. And just to be clear, this isn't about just recklessly running around and breaking stuff. As the Netflix engineers themselves put it, the whole process is way more subtle than that. They built these incredible tools, like the famous Chaos Monkey, which would literally just go around and randomly shut down servers during the middle of the workday. This forced their developers to build services that could handle a sudden outage without you, the viewer, ever even noticing. All right, so with this super resilient cloud foundation, Netflix basically solved the problem of just staying online. Awesome. But, solving one problem often creates another, even bigger one. Now the challenge was, how in the world do you physically deliver that much video data to every corner of the globe without, literally breaking the internet? The answer? Well, it wasn't to try and blast all that data out from a few giant central locations. No way. Instead, they decided to build their very own custom global content delivery network, a CDN, and they called it Open Connect. And the goal was super simple: get the movies and TV shows physically as close to you, the viewer, as humanly possible. And they do this in 2 main ways. First, they stick their own servers, these things called Open Connect appliances, or OCAs, in all the major internet crossroads around the world. But here's the real masterstroke, the genius move. They also give these server boxes away for free to internet service providers, like Comcast or Verizon. And those companies install them right inside their own networks. What does that mean for you? It means when you go to watch Stranger Things, that stream might be coming from a server that's just a few miles down the road from your house. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. Here's what happens. You press play. Your device pings Netflix's main brain, which is running up in Amazon's cloud. That brain checks your account to make sure you're good to go. Then, a part of that brain, called the steering service, instantly figures out the absolute best, closest Open Connect server that has the video you want. It zaps a few URLs back to your device, and only then does your stream actually start, pulling the video files directly from that server right there in your neighborhood. It's this beautiful combination of a centralized brain and a massively distributed body. Okay, great. So now we know how the video gets to our screen. But hold on, what happens before all that? I mean, how does a single giant movie file get ready for a global audience using thousands of different devices on thousands of different internet speeds? That's a whole other puzzle. Well, that's the job of a system that's basically a super sophisticated digital factory. It takes that one enormous, pristine quality source file from the movie studio, and it churns out hundreds of different versions. Each one is perfectly optimized with different resolutions and file formats, what the pros call codecs, to make sure you get a super smooth playback, whether you're watching on a giant 4K TV with fiber internet or on a tiny phone with a really shaky connection. And this factory is all about insane efficiency. Instead of trying to wrestle with one giant file all at once, the system first chops it up into a bunch of small chunks. Then, dozens, even hundreds of processors jump on all those chunks at the same time, in parallel. Once they're all done, another part of the system stitches the encoded pieces back together, checks it all for quality, and gives it the final stamp of approval. It's this assembly line approach that lets them process these massive video files with just mind-boggling speed. Okay, so let's recap. We've got a resilient system that won't fall over, a global network to deliver the video, and an efficient factory to prepare it all. But as you know, Netflix isn't just about streaming video anymore, right? Now they've got games, they've got live events, they've got ads, and all of that created a brand new challenge. How do you understand a user's entire journey across all these different things? And that's really the core problem they faced. In a normal system, all those different actions, watching a show, playing a game, seeing an ad, they all live in separate little data buckets. They're totally isolated. So trying to stitch all that information together to get one complete picture of a single user, yeah, that was becoming a massive, massive headache for their engineers. So, what was their solution? Something pretty brilliant called a real-time distributed graph. So instead of storing data in a bunch of separate tables, I want you to picture a giant, constantly moving spider web. Every user, every show, every game, they're all just points on this web. And every single action you take creates a new thread, a new connection between those points. This structure makes it unbelievably fast to see how all of your different activities are connected. And the scale here, it's just staggering. This graph system is taking in and connecting over 5 million events every single second. It's basically a living, breathing, real-time map of how the entire Netflix universe is interacting with itself. And that gives them instant insights that were just completely impossible to get before. Okay, so why does any of this underlying tech actually matter? What's the point? Well, it matters because it's the engine that's powering Netflix's biggest strategic pivot in over a decade. It's enabling a fundamental shift in how they measure success and, frankly, how they make their money. And this isn't the first time they've had to completely reinvent themselves. I mean, we all know that famous story from way back in 2000, right? When a tiny little Netflix offered to partner with the behemoth Blockbuster, and the Blockbuster execs pretty much just laughed them out of the room. It's such a powerful reminder that to survive, you have to constantly evolve. Not just your technology, but your whole strategy. So what's this new pivot all about? Well, the company is finally moving away from its old obsession, which was all about one number, quarterly subscriber growth. In fact, they're going to stop reporting that metric entirely in 2025. The new game is all about engagement. The big question is now, how many hours are people actually watching? And of course, monetization, which is coming mostly from their new advertising tier. And guess what? This new strategy is already paying off big time. See, when your user base is as huge as Netflix is, even tiny improvements in engagement and ad revenue can have a massive financial impact. And the result is that their revenue growth isn't just strong anymore. It's actually speeding up. And this is where it all comes full circle. That chaos engineering we talked about, it makes sure the platform is always on, so you never get frustrated and leave. The Open Connect network, that guarantees a perfect, buffer-free experience that keeps you watching. And that crazy real-time data graph, that gives them all the insights they need to personalize everything, the content, the games, the ads, to keep you as engaged as possible. At the end of the day, the technology is what makes the new strategy possible. So the next time you sit down and press play, maybe you'll think for a second about the absolutely incredible journey those pixels took just to get to you. But it also leaves us with a much bigger question to chew on, doesn't it? As this powerful technology gets even better and better at understanding us, at predicting our behavior, how is that going to change the very nature of the stories we're told in the future?